there is an attempt to take down the white man. I want to know why. Well, I know why, but I want to know what you think is why. I have back with me Paul Elam, a well-known men's rights activist, author, blogger, and podcaster. He is the founder of A Voice for Men and An Ear for Men. He also co-authored the book, Say Goodbye to Crazy, How to Get Rid of That Crazy Ex and Restore Sanity to Your Life. And I want to talk to Paul about men because it's getting worse rather than getting better. Paul, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Do you agree with me that men are the most hated species on this side of heaven?
Absolutely. In this day and age, it is shamefully true.
And why? Why are men so hated?
Well, there's a 50 to almost going on 60 now year agenda from leftist feminists, from Marxists, to undermine the family. And the first thing that you have to do to undermine the family is disempower and disenfranchise the man. You do that to the head of household, and it's much easier to break things apart.
That's amazing. And if they were not able to destroy the man, destroy the family, it wouldn't be, they could not take over, right?
That's right. What they've done is set about an agenda of having the government take over the role of man.
I saw this happen to black men some 60 years ago now. And when they brought in the government, they made the black woman feel good about being wrong. They made her feel better than the man. They boosted her ego. And as a result, 60 years later, the black family is almost non-existent. The average black man isn't worth a dime. The average black woman is angry and destroying the children, and the black men and black women hate one another. They are relying on the government and others to take care of them. Why didn't white Americans speak up back then as to what was really going on? Because now the exact same thing is happening to the white man and the white family.
Well, shamefully, one of the reasons that white America didn't speak up is because it wasn't happening at the time to white America. I just regretfully, that's the way things are and the way they have been. But it's also true that men in general don't speak up about these things. Black men didn't speak up about it in the 1960s when the social liberals started undermining the black family. Nobody spoke up about it, and white people are not speaking up about it now as it's happening to them.
So are men afraid to speak up? Why don't men speak up? They have the authority to speak up, given to them by God. Why don't they use that authority?
Well, because socially the idea of men having all the power, which is what feminists have sold us, that idea for so long, isn't true. Men generally are inclined to want to please women. That's what we do. We're programmed that way. And unfortunately, we're programmed to do it kind of mindlessly.
Yeah.
That our instinct is to always protect, always provide, even when it's not deserved, and always seek approval. And that has been killing us.
Who programmed men to please women? Because it wasn't done by God. We are programmed naturally by God to please him and he alone. And because you can never please a woman. It's the man's responsibility to love what's right with all his heart, soul, and might, and do what's right. And then women are subject to that righteousness in the man. Is he being trained by his mother to please women?
Well, it's interesting that you noted that, Jesse, because this is a lot to do with single mothers. Once we've had 2 generations now of men raised by single mothers. And what we see so many times in those households when the man has been ostracized, the father's been removed from the home, that the woman will, it's psychologically unhealthy, but they turn their children, particularly their male children, into emotional husbands, into caretakers, that they're raised that you better please mama no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's translated now even into the church. A lot of my audience are church-going men who feel like that the church itself has betrayed them along these lines too, that they're getting messages directly from the pulpit that they better please and take care of women, unlike the way things used to be.
It's unfortunate because women need men to be strong. They need men to be right because that helps keep them right as well. But when men go weak or they go out of control, they become weak and subject to women and the world, then the women lose control as well. Is that understood in this society by Christians?
I don't think so anymore. I think we've lost that wisdom across the whole culture. I don't think very many people understand that very much anymore at all.
That's amazing. And it's not going to get better in society and the family until men get better. Nothing else is going to change it. No government, no laws, no okaying wrongdoing. The only thing that's going to bring it back to order is for men to return back to God and do the right thing. Do you see anything else that can fix this situation?
Men need to find their spines. They've lost track of that. And to be fair, the moment you speak up, and I can tell you somebody who's advocated on men's issues for 30 years now, the moment you speak up about issues that are affecting men, that displease women, you'll get branded a misogynist, a hater in this society. And I mean, reputations and careers are destroyed this way. That's why you won't see a politician stand up and talk about the incredible injustice going on in our family courts, the way that they're ripping families apart and ripping fathers away from their children. You won't even see a politician speak about that because the moment he does, he'll get branded a misogynist, or she will. Yeah. And then it's career over.
But that's fine. We should expect the children of the lie to attack in a personal way because they don't have any power at all. And if they can name call you and give fear to you, then they can control you and destroy your physical life. But if you love what's right and do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do, then God will always provide a way for you. Because he said if we put what's right first, he will open up a window of heaven and he will bless us in ways that we never can imagine. Why don't men understand that? I mean, the children of the lie are supposed to attack because they hate truth. Men represent truth. They hate the truth. And so they're supposed to attack. But that's not a reason to give in to the world like that.
Well, for whatever reason, unfortunately, Jesse, I think that's what men have done. They have abrogated their responsibilities toward the family. They've abrogated their responsibilities toward their sons and toward themselves by not speaking up and by capitulating to this. And frankly, I don't see it improving until we have some sort of social meltdown and have to start building over again. Amazing.
Are you an alpha male or a beta male?
Oh, gosh, that's an interesting question. Probably a little of both. If there is such a thing, I'm probably somewhat of both.
You say the problem with the mental health industry is that it is mentally unhealthy, especially for men. Explain that.
Well, I noticed way back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, as the feminist influence started coming into the mental health industry, that we began treating masculinity as though it was an illness.
Yeah.
The anti-male bigotry in the psychiatric field and in the psychological disciplines is so strong that they create entire disciplines, feminist therapy, to what they call deconstructing patriarchy. What it really translates to is undermining men. So when men seek mental health services, for instance, marriage counseling, they go into an environment that's hostile to them immediately.
Why do men go to so-called these liberal, godless female counselors and psychiatrists and for advice, knowing that they're going to give them the wrong kind of advice?
I think often they just get dragged there by their wives, that they get ultimatums that we need counseling. And of course, what women in the modern age know is that by availing themselves to modern psychological services, they're getting an ally in that is going to help put blame on men, which is what happens in marriage counseling all the time. Men get saddled with the responsibility for whatever's wrong in the marriage, and you have professionals out there, believe it or not, just taking the role and the assumption that everything is a man's fault coming into it. But you see this reflected in other ways too. For instance, the suicide rate is 4-to-1 men killing themselves over women. Yet the mental health profession still refuses to recognize suicide as a men's issue. You will never see that in any of the suicide national services hotlines. You'll never see mention of suicide as a men's issue, even though it's men killing themselves at 4 times the rate of women. Now, if the roles were reversed, of course, there would be a lot of outrage about women being the victims of this problem, but not so when it comes to men.
I have never understood, and maybe because of how I grew up. You know, I grew up in Alabama on a plantation, and for the most part, men were men. I never understood, even in my weakest life, before waking up, I never understood why men would go and tell women their personal weaknesses. This is because women can't handle that. It's not in their nature to know that a man is weak, because they naturally need men to be strong. And it's a spiritual order of life, you know, God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. It would be like me talking to Christ, and Christ is weak. How would I respect him, and how would I look to him to guide me if he's weak? And so when I was growing up, men didn't tell women their weakness. They went to an elderly man who was wise if they needed physical guidance. And that has all changed. Men of the last 50 to 60 years are going to women. I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, because they're going to judge you for life. They're never going to see you as being a strong man.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, one of the lost wonderful things that we used to have as a part of this culture was mentoring between men.
Yes.
Older men teaching younger men how to grow up, how to become men, how to do trades, how to learn things.
Right.
This was a great part of male culture. And it's another thing that the left and feminists have come in to destroy, all male spaces. Anything that's designated for men, they want to destroy. And by doing that and succeeding at it, and because men didn't resist, they've also destroyed mentoring. So you leave 2 generations of men that when they do have problems, they don't have strong men to turn to get guidance.
Yeah.
They end up going to the mental health field, which tells them that their problem is that they're masculine. It's absolutely insane, but that is exactly what's happening.
You might disagree with me on this, and I'm okay with it if you do. I believe in that spiritual order of God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. And that order works when you respect and love that order. But when you break that order and go against that order, then life falls apart for the family, for the children, for the wife, and even for men in the long run. Do you agree with that or disagree?
Well, not being a religious person, Jesse, I would, I guess, technically have to fall on the line of disagreeing with it. However, there's a caveat to that. The order of men as heads of families is something that has been throughout history, something that formed the foundation and stabilized our society, that gave us society as we know it. So even though I may have religious differences about that order of importance, the fact of men as head of household has always been what this society needed. But we are a long way from that at this point. We have torn that apart.
And the reason that men have been doing it forever is because it was ordained by God that the man is the head of his wife and the wife is over the children because of that love that come from above and come down. I want to ask, I'm asked by good mothers. There are a lot of good mothers out there whose sons are suffering. You mentioned suicide. They're depressed. A lot of young men, especially white men, are worried now about their jobs. They don't want to go to school because they're discriminated against in universities and lower academics around the country. And the mothers are asking me, what can I do to help my son? Because they're not for this feminist evil work that they're doing. What will you say to those mothers?
Get strong men involved with your son's life, one way or the other. If you're a single mother, that may be challenging. But one thing you can do, and this is not to just point fingers at women, but we need to have honest discussions about this problem. One is quit running strong men out of your lives. Help create an environment where strong men flourish. Create relationships between older men and younger men. Facilitate that as a mother. Understand that young men need this. They can't get all their needs met by single mothers. They need fathers.
Yeah.
And that is the big challenge, is that we've run the father out of the home.
Yes.
In this culture.
Yeah.
We've paid women to kick the father out of the home. That's what we've done. And we've destroyed our children doing that.
It's so unfortunate, too. And again, we have physical proof of this by happening to black men. And now the average black man think and act like a woman. He's very angry and emotional. He has doubt. He ride on the passenger side of the car and let the woman drive. And it's just bad. We're running out of time together here. You call President Trump a gynocentrist. What does that mean?
Well, that is where, and it's a common term in my field, but gynocentrism in the modern sense is about putting the interest of women above everything, including reason. Part of what got us to the problem. I think Trump does a great job, President Trump does a great job of countering feminist craziness, of countering political correctness, and I love him for that.
I call him the great white hope.
Yeah, but at the same time, as an honest criticism of President Trump, he has his daughter in a very powerful position, promoting issues related to girls, when by any objective measure, it is our boys that are suffering. It is our boys that are hurting in school, our boys that are hurting in employment, our boys that are hurting with criminality, with drug abuse, with all kinds of issues. And they are lagging far behind girls. And I think rather than just facilitate what's happening for girls, that we need to look very strongly at this.
So people can find Paul Elam at A Voice for Men and an Ear for Men. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome.